Welcome, guys. Welcome to the No Idea Zone. This is our inaugural episode. I have invited comedians who I think are funny and really cool, people that I've worked with who I feel like I'm not going to freak out and worry that I don't know what the fuck this is, even though I absolutely do not know what the fuck this is. My first guest, and I'm going to truncate the intros from what you guys gave, because you guys are sort of all master, Swiss Army knives of comedy. Authors, writers, producers. My first guest is a very interesting fellow who I've known for a short time, but is the opening act for Jt Habersaat, who many of you may or may not know. I am the co-host of Pep Talks, and I've been writing for a couple of years. This guy is the founder of the Altercation Comedy Festival in Austin, Texas, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He is a road dog stand-up comic. He has opened up, I think, for Doug Stanhope. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I've worked with Doug quite a bit.
Right, and touring with Eddie all year this year and created some really cool shit, man. He's been dubbed the Godfather of Punk Comedy,
Nice.
which is a super cool title. And I think that I have it covered. Oh, and he is a custom toy maker, which, by the way, is one of the most difficult things to deliver without feeling like I'm, like I'm introducing the guy from Blade Runner. Please welcome Jt Habersaat. JT.
Hey, man.
Thanks
How's
for
it
being
going?
with us.
Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. And a very long-time old friend of mine, a brilliant comedian, and we have toured together and done a lot of stand-up over the years. He is the Jordanian maniac. That's my term for him, the Christian Arab. He fucks with me as his Jewish counterpart. This guy has been on probably like 100 different regular roles on television. He's toured internationally. It's so funny that I have to look at this as I'm reading your credits. Arrested Development, regular on Arrested Development, regular on Real Husbands of Hollywood. And he was a regular recurring character on this little show that a few people heard of called Breaking Bad.
Wow.
Please welcome, all the way from Detroit, Michigan, Mike Batayeh. Hey, Mike.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, JT.
Nice to meet you, man.
Mike doesn't do interviews, so this is a big
Awesome.
thing.
I don't like them. I only do them if I have to, for like fresh shit. But like the only I did 2 podcasts. One of them was the Jt Habersaat podcast because I wanted to officially meet Jt Habersaat. I saw him once, was blown away, and never got to talk to him. And then Steve called me for this one. I was like, all right.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, there was a tremendous amount of anxiety emails going back and forth from Mike.
Yeah.
What clothes do I wear? What time is it? And I'm like, oh my God, am I dealing with a Jewish woman? So how's everything in Austin, JT? Tell us what's going on there.
Man, it's kind of the same all over. It's I feel like the people are really on the precipice of trying to do the right thing, but also hitting that level of squirreliness where it's like something's got to give, which I totally relate to, but also makes me a little nervous. I don't know. I'm missing the road real bad. So there's that. I've been trying to dive into, like you said, these custom toys. I just kind of fell into that. And so that's been taking up a lot of my time, and I'm trying to start work on my audiobook of my latest book for Audible. So I'm just trying to keep busy, man, but the weather's nice. It's gorgeous out. So, that's been cool. I've been trying to ride my bike in the evenings and stuff and just try to
this is deeply exciting shit we're all doing, really.
Oh, dude, we got to do something. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of the same all over unless you're in super rural. Well, you said you're near Detroit, man, or are you in like rural Michigan? Where are you at?
Right now I'm living in the border of Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor.
Oh, okay. I've only been to Detroit, and I did a casino one time in, what is it? Man, it's where all the cherry blossoms are. Indian Casino, God.
Oh, Not Lansing. I know what you're talking about, though. I can't remember, though.
Like, you'll know where I mean.
North Michigan. Northern Michigan?
Yeah, Northern Michigan.
Yeah.
And, man, it was gorgeous up there. I didn't know how, like, rural and countryside it was. It was.
Oh, dude, Northern Michigan is God's country. I traveled all over, but literally you go into the lakes and you can go up to your neck, and it's like you're just in glass. You can see everything.
I was blown away. Unfortunately, I was there mainly in the winter, so it just got spoiled.
It really is big. I love it up there.
Mike, is it starting to warm up over there a little bit?
Yeah. It's like a bipolar vortex, man. Like yesterday it was like 40, today it's like 60. Yeah. I'm like, really, Mother Nature really is just fucking us in the ass all at once, right?
You know, man,
virus, fucking bipolar vortex.
I live in Playa, which is beautiful. I mean,
always beautiful over there.
It's incredible where I live. The weather's always perfect. It's like something out of a storybook. But it's the west side of LA, and people are very aloof here. Like if you try to talk to somebody and just say hello, they act like you're trying to sell them insurance.
Yeah, it's that surface niceness.
There's no surface. There's no surface. They're like, what is this guy do? So since the pandemic, I will say, people have gotten much friendlier. Friendlier. When I take my bike,
it's like when you're hiking in the woods and you pass somebody, you're like, hey, how's it going? Like, don't kill me type of niceness. Yeah.
Mike, I don't hike in the woods, but you can tell us about your experiences in Northern Michigan.
Yeah, no, in California, when I was hiking, I noticed how much nicer people were to each other when you pass somebody and it's just you two on a big deserted fucking fire road.
Because
you don't know if they're a serial killer.
They're nice out of self-defense. Yeah.
I watch a lot of
notice that, like, wait, white people are so nice in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, you become a Forensic Files episode if you don't wave very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're much nicer out here, man. Women are much friendlier when I wave and say good morning on my bike, because I take my bike out twice a day, JT. And they close the beaches, so you can't ride on the beach. And they closed the gym in the complex, so you can't use that. So I just ride around the fucking neighborhood, till I break a sweat, and my mind is going into atrophy. I noticed this, guys, as comics. I don't know how much you guys are experiencing this. You, especially JT, because you are on the road so much doing stand-up. Take for granted the sharpness of my mind from my going into atrophy and getting dull, and needing exercise to just keep on life support, basically.
Well, what's interesting about that is I see a lot of comics saying, oh, I'm going to get so much writing done. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. That's so crazy to me that people would use this lockdown as like a time to write. Because for me, part of the reason I like doing the road so much is that's where you get stories and experiences and inspiration to write new material. Like, I haven't thought about writing comedy in this thing. My brain's not, I'm concentrating on other things because it's not even in that realm. And I was supposed to record last weekend. I was supposed to record my new special last week. Supposed to be in Gainesville, Florida, recording for 800 Pound Gorilla, Warner Brothers. And part of me was super upset and bummed out, but another part of me is like, I haven't been on stage in fucking 6 weeks. Like,
that might not go well.
No, I'm like, I was supposed to have 2 weeks with Eddie. We were supposed to do festivals and stuff and lead up to it. Very intentionally laid out that way, so I'll be sharp. And now I'm like, I don't remember. I got to dust off this hour. I don't know, So I feel you, man. Yeah, definitely. I've been trying to exercise other parts of my brain by doing reading books and writing non-comedy stuff and working on, toys and art projects, because absolutely you can just turn into the guy that just watches Netflix and just doesn't get off the couch,
The good news is, here's the good news.
Yes,
What?
Yeah, please, I'll take all the good news you have.
Okay, here's the good news. When this shit starts getting going again, let's say August or whenever because you're going to know, because it's literally your profession. Whenever these clubs start wanting people or feeling safe or whatever, everyone's going to suck. So there's going to be if you tank, nobody's going to go, oh, fucking Habersaat, that fucking hack. You know what I mean? That fucking shitty. I heard he was good, and now I see him, and fuck this fucking guy.
Yeah,
so that's what gives me peace, because when I take a few weeks off, Yeah.
Or it's gonna open the gate for all the fucking YouTube celebrities to just bypass everybody in a big rush and take over the comedy clubs, and the real comedians are gonna be fucking trying to start YouTube channels. It might flip everything. You never know.
That's
you make
why
a good point there, because there's definitely, with everything that's been canceled, you're going to find, and even if, say the fall, I know like Moon Tower Comedy Festival in Austin here, which is a big festival.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie did it last year, and they do large venues. You're going to see people, I think, that are used to playing theaters are going to be relegated to the clubs or YouTube stars, whatever the fuck that,
Mm-hmm.
And outdoor comedy is going to become a thing.
It already kind of is. I do outdoor shows when I go through like Denver and up to, northern Arkansas, Fayetteville, and stuff like that. But it's going to be everyone's going to be fighting for that. There's only so many venues, Fortunately for me, I'm used to using the alternative venues since I started, and so half the shows Eddie and I do are rock clubs now, or just comedy rooms, not necessarily clubs.
Yeah.
But, we're doing Helium allegedly in June and in August, and, those clubs. And so it'll be interesting to see what they haven't canceled yet, but it's really going to be kind of the club owners deciding, what's safe. When is a big enough crowd or a small enough crowd okay? I don't know.
Well, how about Mike? By the way, I love this look. Thank you so much.
You can tell you're on Breaking Bad. That's legit as fuck.
He was the guy. Wait a minute. He was the guy with the little shirt with the tie on Breaking Bad.
This is. Are you ready for this? This is me. Vince Gilligan sent this painting commission of everyone in the set that says, "Hey, this is Vince." He goes, "Find yourself in the Where's Waldo." So here's all the guys, and if you could see it, that's me right there on fire.
There's a reflection. Dude.
Was that cigarette related? Because
yeah, well, they burned me in prison. Yeah.
They burned him in prison. He's the guy they kill in prison on Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Dennis.
So what I was going to tell you, though, in regards to everything kind of dropping down, like things are going to be like the new normal. I think what's going to happen overall is going to be you're going to see it in every realm. You're going to see like millionaires are going to be the new middle class now. There's going to be way more billionaires after this. And in regards to the comedy circuit, what you said and what I said half jokingly may be true. You're going to see a lot of YouTube people that early on we saw that when YouTube first started happening, these people that weren't comedians were actually getting stage time because they had followings.
Mike, they have to be able to talk in public. They have to be
that's the problem.
Public, Mike.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's what would happen early on. But I think you're going to see a second wave of it happening once the gates lift. You're going to see a lot more of that bullshit, I think.
Like a second wave of the virus is what you're saying.
Yeah, the virus is going to change a lot. Yeah. That's my prediction. But hopefully things, like I said, natural selection will happen again. And then they'll get weeded out like they did the first wave. And I think everything should be back to normal. I mean, ideally, I would think November or, December, things will start getting back to normal for the comedians, I think.
I hope so. I got a festival the last week in October I'm putting on, so it better.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Mike, I think we figured something out, not about this virus or the comedy, but about you doing interviews. If you can walk around with a cigarette, with your phone, you could do any interview. You're owning this shit, buddy.
You know what I had to do? Speaking of which, I'm seeing a lot of quarantine comedy shows, but I just recorded my very first quarantine set because I was asked to be part of this global comedy event, like a 2-day comedy event where comedians from all over the world, like Eddie Brill from New York, myself, people from New Zealand. Okay, so they're beating it out from Saudi Arabia, of all places, but they're getting clearance to certain places in the world to open the portals up because they have a lot of restrictions in certain places. So yeah, it was really uncomfortable. I did one, and I thought it was okay, but I was holding it because I didn't want to put it on a tripod because it looked too stiff. And then I redid it and I watched it again. I go, it wasn't bad, but my whole set was devoted to not a distraction set, like, hey, regular routine. My whole set was devoted to the quarantine. When I first heard about it, to where I am with it now and what I went through and
how much time do you have on the quarantine, Mike? How much quarantine material can you
They wanted 6 to 8 minute set. And within a week I just did the whole set was about the quarantine thing. And so I think the proceeds are going to COVID relief, which is bullshit. I don't think any private citizen should have to donate $1 fucking dollar to this thing. When these banks, I'm so pissed off about that. I'm like, I'm happy to do it, but what the fuck? Why do we have to do it? You know what I mean? So it's just so many weird things happening. You're getting so much misinformation. Like I have a nephew that works at University of Michigan. He's telling me one story about how it's kind of overrun, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear somebody else, a nurse from like Kansas, let's say, it's all bullshit. And when you have 2 people. No.
So I spoke to a nurse. I was trying to get some pussy online, some sex talk. And I came across this nurse in Idaho, no joke, Idaho, beautiful woman. And she said, it's crazy in Idaho. If it's crazy in Idaho it's crazy in Idaho, it's crazy everywhere, brother.
Yeah.
That's what's so unsettling.
Only 7 people live in Kansas also. So 2 is 30% fatalities.
And Steve, thank your dick for the news update, by the way. If it wasn't for you, this information wouldn't go out.
I save them for broadcasts. I don't tell you in our conversations. I save it for broadcasts.
Yeah, how many flights to Idaho
you said something funny.
I ride my bike to Idaho.
You ride your bike to Idaho.
You said something funny too, Steve. You go, I'm finding that women are really friendly. Like they wave to me. I'm like, that's because you're not in the fucking creep zone.
Dude, I'm dating like 2 of my neighbors. I'm dating 2 of my neighbors.
Nice.
One, Victor, very nice guy.
I was gonna say the odd couple.
Yeah, Victor and Christian, two very nice guys. They don't know.
Oh, you froze.
That must have been. I can see. Yeah, he froze.
He froze. He's like this.
Kind of hilarious though.
Each other. One's on the 3rd floor, one's on the 2nd floor.
There you go.
You guys froze.
Okay, there you go. You froze.
Whoa, that was like some. That was like some 2001 Space Odyssey shit, guys.
Sounds to me like your neighbors are messing with your Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Those are the special effects. That's the special effects.
Your neighbors are going.
That's right. So the black guy never showed up.
Nah. To be expected.
Man. Let me see if he texted.
Fucking Derek.
Do you guys have anything to promote perchance?
I got a couple things. Go ahead. You want to go first, JT?
I've got if you go to Instagram, JT Custom Toys is my Instagram page for the customs I've been doing. This week I'm doing a week of all shining toys. Yeah, I made 10 different designs. Some of them are normal 4-inch action figures and some are like 12-inch giant figures. Wow. So today I just released, I made an action figure of the blood from the elevator.
Holy shit.
So it's a packaging of the chair from the hallway floating in a pile of blood.
That is awesome.
I don't have the actual toy in front of me like an idiot, but I can show you.
Yeah, show us something.
I can show you a photo.
I don't think I've ever heard anything like that, like set design toy.
Right. So
they're cool. He made an Eddie Pepitone one.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can see it's 3-dimensional there. It pops out.
Wow.
So that's blood with a chair.
Holy shit.
And hang on.
That's genius.
This was yesterday. Bear with me 1 second here. A dumb phone. So this was, I did the nice party guy from The Shining that holds up the thing. Is nice.
Oh party. Yes, gosh, you're really going obscure. What about Turkle? Or no, not Turkle. What about Scatman Carruthers?
Well, I'll tell you, man.
Shine.
I made Lloyd from The Shining. He's coming up later in the week. And I had all the parts. I was gonna do a dead Scatman Carruthers with an axe in him.
Wow.
And the place that I get all the art made for so I can make the packaging fucked up and didn't send me that design. So that was a bummer. Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
That's incredible. Hey, Steve.
It's just me and you, Mike.
I just realized with the shadowing and my dog, I look like a fucking cult leader.
No, you don't look like a cult leader. You look like a.
I got the goatee in the.
You look like a guy who finances terrorism.
You look like a.
I'm like, you look ready. Call me.
Like when they do the they do the paneling out for a movie when the 007 villain has like the pen.
Totally.
All right, so this is a 12-inch figure. This is you remember this scene in The Shining where the bear suit guy is blowing?
Sure.
I was just gonna ask you that. I swear to God.
So I made a 12-inch bear guy.
I swear to God, I was gonna ask you to do that.
Like one of those Star Wars collectibles we had as kids.
That's so perfect.
Yeah, so it's an actual bear suit, like it's a furry bear suit that I found.
Oh, dude. And, I swear to God, I was just going to ask you that. Like, you should make a figure of that.
And here's Turkle for you, Steve. There's Lloyd.
Oh, Lloyd.
With
that is like
in a bottle of bourbon.
Lloyd is the bartender, and what's the other? Delbert Grady. You know, the guy who plays.
I was going to make Delbert Grady as well.
Can I ask you, did you have to go through Stephen King channel to get clearance?
Well, you know what's wild is I when I started doing these, I was worried about that because I'm a guy that pays rights for stuff. You know, like I'm not going to rip people off.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The motto of my stuff is one and done. So whatever I do one, and that's the collectability aspect of it. And if you do one, it's considered an art piece. And so with the art piece aspect of it, I would never mass produce any of this without permission. I would never, you know.
Oh, but I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, if you do one, it's generally, I don't know if it's just a matter of it's not enough for them to bother, but you know.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and so a lot of it also, like this stuff is probably honestly a little squicky because it's a movie. But if you do stuff like public figures, like I did, Eddie, you know, in theory, Eddie, because he's a public figure, I made him as a magician for his bit.
That's right.
And,
he hates magicians?
Oh, yeah, he has this bit about how he hates magicians, and so that's why I made him as a magician.
I saw it in Ruins. I saw that.
Yeah.
Hey, make me feel secure!
Exactly. What happened? The fucking quarter got bigger, so I put a giant quarter in his hand. And so I've made him for like Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn. I did one for Brian Posehn when he was in that new Star Wars Mandalorian.
Can I ask you how much you charge normally, or you can't?
You know, man, most customs go for $150 to $200 each for a normal size. I do around 65 for the smaller and around 150 for the bigger.
Wow.
So everybody's broke right now. It's a fun thing.
You can make it for somebody. Like if I wanted one for myself, theoretically, you could make one of me.
Custom orders right now. I make $150 all in parts, everything, whatever you want, assuming I can do it. You know.
Wow, cool. Yeah. I might hit you up.
Cool. Yeah, hit me up, man. It's
Dennis from Breaking Bad. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what's funny is I'm buddies with, I don't know if you know Joe DeRosa. He plays the veterinarian on Better Call Saul.
We used to do the Middle Eastern Comedy Festival in New York.
Joe's a good buddy of mine, and I made Joe a gift, a figure, and it's him with veterinarian grade ketamine that he stole from the
Better Call Saul.
The Better Call Saul veterinarian thing.
Yeah, I used to do the festival in New York with Joe. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. He did my festival last year. We actually met through Eddie. We did Eddie's podcast at Moon Tower Fest last year.
Yeah, he's buddies with Eddie. That's right.
Yeah, and so we had never met before.
Look at that man.
Just
small world.
With him.
Small
just
world.
Just in conversation, he's one of the funniest people. Just in conversation.
Yeah, we're both drinkers, and so we hit that. We really bonded there.
Oh yeah, in New York. You
can't do that with Eddie. He's not a drinker. You know.
No, he's not. But I was not worried, but concerned that because I like to drink on the road, I didn't want to put Eddie in a weird spot. But he's great with it. You know, he's
it's good to be with, if you're a drinker, it's good to be with someone who's not a drinker, just in case, you know?
What's funny is I drink way less on the Eddie tours, honestly, because I do the driving and I road manage more or less some of the deals. Whereas when I go out and headline, I have 4 returning features I work with, and almost all of them don't drink, so it works out great for me in those regards because they can drive, and then it's the opposite. You know?
So you're like Jim Morrison, and they're your handlers pretty much when you're on the road.
Yeah. Well, as long as I'm not affecting the set, yeah, a little bit.
This is one of the most, to me, this is one of the most fascinating things in the short time I've known you, JT, is that you have been able to create sort of like a circuit of comedy that where you don't have to go through a corporate structure in order to book gigs, and you can do it outside the clubs to a certain degree. Well, this is fascinating to me, dude. You're a trailblazer. To me, you're a trailblazer. Eddie has shared all this shit with me, and I'm like very kind of mesmerized by it. I got to tell you. So hats off to you, brother.
That means a lot, man. It took a long time. You know, I always say comics now that I work with that are younger will always say, wow, how did you get such a cool audience, base audience, or how did you, you know, I said, man, you have to eat shit for 10 years. You know, you have to, when I started this thing, the Altercation Punk Comedy Tour, and it was like kind of a comedians of comedy thing where I had 3 of my friends, and we refused to play comedy clubs. We did rock clubs and just kind of grinded it out and slept on floors and made no money. And, you know, one of our first tours was 5 weeks of shows with 1 night off, and the night off was to fly from New York to the West Coast. That was our night off.
Yeah, that's another thing I notice you do. When you and Eddie go out, you're doing like a different city every night. I mean, really road dog stuff.
Yeah, you know, now it's gotten to the point though where it's reasonable, but it's, you know, I've been doing it for 12 years, so it's the relationships are there. I've proven myself to a point where the promoters trust me that I'm, you know, whoever I bring with me, even if they don't know that person, that they're not going to be a hacky monster or somebody, an edgelord or something.
Can I ask you a question, JT?
Yeah, buddy.
Were you inspired by the Patton Oswalt post saying comedians of comedy thing, or was it kind of parallel to you? Did you start around the same time?
Well, you know, I come from a punk rock background, a music background, really, not a comedy background. So I grew up in New York, and I've been in Austin for 15 years. And I was in New York, I was in bands, and I promoted punk rock shows and stuff. So my DIY, fuck this system, I'm going to do it my own way, was strong. But I started doing it right around the same time that the Comedians of Comedy was happening. And and I had always loved Patton, and, you know, Brian Posehn's a friend of mine. And I was really influenced, like when Henry Rollins started doing spoken word early in the day. And
that was the 90s. Right. I remember that.
Real early, man. And it wasn't stand-up. He was very, because I've worked with Rollins also. He was very specific not to call it stand-up.
He was touring theaters.
What's that?
He was touring like small theaters.
Stories. Yeah.
It was a great story. Yeah.
Storyteller stuff, but very funny. I mean, some of it was very funny and some of it was very serious. But that combined with, like, by that point, Stanhope was saying fuck the clubs and just building his own thing. So that was my goal. I wanted to kind of build my own thing. And the only way I thought to really do that, I said I could do a comedy club and have a bunch of people who are there who don't know me, who are there for comedy, and do my job. And I don't think any of those people will necessarily come back because they're there for comedy. Like, let's go see a movie, you know, like they don't necessarily care. Where I said, well, if I do a rock club and even if there's 12 people there and half of them really like it, those half will theoretically come back the next time and bring more like-minded people. And then it'll slowly build. It was a big picture thing. And fortunately it's kind of, you know, the work has kind of yielded fruit in the last 3 or 4 years, I would say, you know.
Well, JT, this is JT.
Yeah, exactly, man. But there's no, everybody wants the quick way there. There's no quick way there, you know. It's you got to do the work, and I'm a bit of a worker, so.
But this is the one thing I notice when I'm out there and the shows that I do, because I'm not regularly at the big clubs in LA, and I go do these spots, and I'd say they're more micro versions of what you're doing on the road, meaning a guy turns his living room into a comedy club.
Sure.
Okay, and people pay to get into that, but they're not paying. And this is the from the business as the Jew. I'll get Jewish on you. Like, people are not paying $75 for parking and tickets and drinks and food. They can't afford that. Like, the people who have the sense of humor who want to see me cannot afford $75 to $100 a night at the fucking Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
So there's people who want to laugh, but they can't afford to go to Helium.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And what's interesting of that too, the economics of scale, Stanhope actually said this. He said, it only takes 50 people in each city to spend $10 and you can be a touring comic. You $500 a night, you're doing 10 shows. That's a decent and also I have a lot of merch. I always have t-shirts and vinyl records and all that stuff. And I tend to, by keeping ticket prices low and building up just kind of a core base, I almost always sell a lot of merch, which can double your guarantee some nights,
Well, that's the road. That's the road way.
That's it. I don't know how comics do road stuff and don't have merch. I yell at Kyle Kinane all the time. It's like, dude, I know he's just getting the theaters and stuff now, but Kyle's a friend and so fucking funny. And he comes from a punk rock background. Kyle Kinane, he's hysterical.
Oh, Kyle Kinane, yeah.
And he never would have merch. He's like, I feel weird about it. I said, what do you hate money? Fucking people will buy your shit.
You know what, JT? I have a DVD, but nobody buys DVDs anymore. And
that's true.
Slogging around T-shirts is just a fucking. It's a labor, Getting a box of fucking T-shirts is a big giant fucking pain in the ass.
I have a weird time even taking pictures after the show and shaking hands.
Well, that's your own social. That's why your career is where it's at.
You got to get over that shit. That's why I always say it's hard. I always tell this with Eddie too, because Eddie's so gregarious and loves to meet the fans, and it's been a thrill for me to bring him to places he's never been. Like that's been so fucking cool. But I always say before the show, we're in before show mode. Like it's okay. We're hiding in the green room. That's before show. Post show. If you're the type that just says, thanks very much, and then disappears and they never see you again, I think that's personally a bit lame. I think part of your job as an entertainer.
I do it. It's just inside I feel weird, but I put on a good face.
Yeah.
I just feel weird. Yeah. It's like,
Mike, do you remember Mike and I did a gig we did a road gig in BFE, California. We drove we went way the fuck out. This is like 10 years ago. Remember, to that coffee house? This is the kind of place, by the way, JT, that you would be booking.
Oh yeah, I've done
okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was a totally it was something out of
that was a fortune teller lady, right? That's the day that we met
the psychic lady, right?
Yeah,
we met the psychic lady. Yeah,
psychic lady. Did she
read more than Steve? She read more than Steve's palm. Let's just say that.
Got it.
I'm missing her.
Yeah.
You're gonna make your neighbor.
I remember that place. It was very, very
she told me all kinds of shit about Mike. She goes, he's not telling you a bunch of shit, but she went down the list. She goes, he's doing this and he's with that and he doesn't want you to know all this shit. And I went, okay, thanks,
Yeah. But we did some strange stuff. The one weird thing, I don't know if you remember this gig, Steve, is that we did a synagogue together.
Oh, I can never forget that. I will never forget that.
It was on the way to this show in San Francisco. One of the guys, Noel Grably, he's a Sephardic Jew, and his brother used to do this place called the Levantine Center, which was kind of the bridging the gap for Middle Easterners and Jews. So we started. He goes, "Hey man, we're doing. I'm gonna host. Noel's doing a synagogue, and I go, hey man, I go, can we Can I open up for you? It'd be fun. I never did a synagogue before,
sure.
We did it, and the crowd was a bunch of old Jews, literally at
wheelchairs, respirators. I mean, straight out of a coronavirus quarantine. Wing of the hospital.
Thing I remember is Steve. If you know Steve's energy, he comes from the black room, so he's very theatrical. He really had that energy going. A bunch of old Jews on a death's door, and Steve's like, he goes into the sex as a board game thing for a bunch of dying Jews.
JT doesn't know. JT's never seen me do stand-up. So
yeah,
JT, I started making fun of them. This is what I remember. Mike's not. I started making fun of them being older.
Yeah.
Sure.
I said, which to me is fucking hysterical, but it did not land where I thought it would. I said, they were laughing with me. They were with me and they were enjoying it. And I said, you guys are hip and you need a hip.
Just
so what I remember,
and from then on, everybody after me, nobody laughed at anything after that.
Just the sound of people carrying their own oxygen off.
Here's the part they got. I was up right after Steve, and when he said that, the old lady in the back looked, and the promoter lady was like next to me, and they had disposable yarmulkes for people who didn't have it when you walked in.
Yeah.
I was like right there, and the lady goes, "I don't like him very much." And the iron lung is breathing, and the lady looked at me and goes, "I hope you do better." And I grabbed the yarmulke. I was like dabbing the sweat on my fucking head. I didn't know it was a yarmulke. I was
hysterical.
That's what I remember. Yeah, with Steve, we played some.
This
really
is but JT, this is what you're dealing with. The guy who organized the show, Mike and I have been doing comedy maybe 10 or 15 years at this point. The guy who organized the show, the guy who organized the show had his brother who had just started comedy close the show out.
Yeah.
And he had his brother, right? What he killed with like.
No, he died. The funny thing is, who killed was the host.
Right, the organizer of the show went on.
Borscht Belt jokes, like really, and he killed. You hear, like it was.
Thanks, Mike, for letting us relive that.
That's awesome. My last special was called Misanthrope out on Stand Up Records. I think it's on their like Vimeo page and stuff, and they did a tape special of that. But I have a 20-minute story on there about going up north on the West Coast and doing a place called Grants Pass, Oregon. And we literally got chased out of town by a band we were playing with. Like the entire crowd chased us.
Blues Brothers, totally. Blues Brothers.
It was crazy, man. Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, dude, it's literally a 20-minute story, and I don't want to do a disservice to it, but essentially, it was a costume party because it was around Halloween, and we did great. It went really well, and we were playing with this horror punk band, and my opening act went up. They always asked to judge the costume contest, and he gave scariest costume to what he said was the gnarliest cross-dressing crack hooker he's ever seen. And it was the fiance of the singer's girlfriend. And the band had all just gotten out of prison, which we didn't know. Like they were all methed out. And I was like, we're going to, and they literally said, "Get him." And everyone chased us. And
what the
fuck?
They said, they're getting away.
That's the worst shit.
Dude, man,
you don't want to hear.
That's like a Lord of the Rings. That's like like goblins and fucking orcs coming after you.
It's something. Yeah, it's called the Grants Pass Nightmare on my special Misanthrope. So you
Grants
can
Pass Nightmare, people. Grants Pass Nightmare is a good place for. The Grants Pass Nightmare is a good place for us to stop and wrap this up because we're getting to the end of our time. But
went quick.
Man, thank you guys so much. I want to, JT, what's your website people can find you on?
The best place to go is jtcomedy.com, and all of the dates for Eddie and I, like we in theory have dates booked through November right now, so hopefully shit'll get rescheduled and the stuff that's out there will stay, but we're really concerned about keeping things safe first. But jtcomedy.com has all my links on there, and JT Custom Toys on Instagram has all the toy stuff. So
okay, thanks, JT.
Thanks for having me.
And Mikey, where can we find you? And tell us what's people are going to want to stalk you now and
they are.
And get funding for their terrorist activities. So
anytime, buddy, anytime.
Where can we reach out to you?
I'm under the synonym jihadjoe.com. No, I'm just kidding. So listen, I used to have my Twitter tied into my Facebook. So anytime I always only mess with Facebook. For some reason, it's not connecting to Twitter anymore, so I just kind of leave that negativity over there. You can basically just find me. Everything I do is on Facebook. My stand-up comedy videos, a few of them are on YouTube. That global comedy event, the 2-day event, I will post on my Facebook page once they get clearance to let me know when it's going to be happening. And like I said, I'm waiting on 2 movies that got pushed back. So as soon as I, find out when I'm shooting those and the release dates and all that, everything usually based on Facebook right now. So that's all I need to know.
I'm going to track you down on Facebook, man. I hope to meet you in person at some point.
You too, brother.
Absolutely.
And I want to see your work, definitely, man. I want to check out all your work, man. Those figures are amazing.
There's a Facebook page, too, so I'll connect on there with you.
Awesome, man. Good to meet you, brother.
So Mike, thank you, Mike. Thank you, JT. And one more thing. keep watching Better Call Saul on AMC, because I'm not, the cat's not out of the bag. Mike Batayeh hasn't shared anything with me, but there is a good possibility Dennis could be appearing on that show in future seasons.
Let me check on my lawyer. I cannot confirm nor deny, Senator.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for the first great inaugural episode, and we'll see you guys soon. And this is the No Idea Zone. You can follow. We're going to be on all social platforms, but we'll start here on Facebook, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Another painless interview with you, Steve.
Good job, Mikey.
See you guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.